Tonight, imagine falling asleep without a door. No lock, no wall, nothing between your family and the darkness except a weak fire and a circle of sleeping bodies. So, who stayed awake while everyone else slept? The obvious answer is a guard, one alert hunter sitting beside the flames, listening for predators until another person took over. It feels so sensible that movies almost always show prehistoric nights this way. But the real answer may be stranger. In many camps, there may have been no formal guard at all, and yet the group may have been watched almost continuously. To understand how that could happen, first forget the modern bedroom. Your room is designed to convince your brain that night is safe. The temperature is controlled. The door closes. The floor does not move. Strange sounds are blocked by walls, and an alarm tells you when sleep should end. For most of human existence, sleep happened inside a living landscape. Wind moved branches. Insects crawled nearby. Children shifted beside adults. A fire cracked, dimmed, and needed attention. Animals called in the distance, while unfamiliar footsteps or sudden silence could carry important information. Sleep was necessary. But deep unconsciousness also created vulnerability. That produced a difficult evolutionary problem. How could every person rest without leaving the whole group unaware? Unfortunately, sleep leaves almost nothing for archaeologists to find. A stone tool can survive for hundreds of thousands of years. A sleeping schedule cannot. Hearths reveal that humans gathered around fire, and campsites reveal that people lived in groups, but neither tells you who opened their eyes at 2 in the morning. Researchers therefore examine living communities whose nights are less separated from the natural environment. These communities are not frozen copies of the Stone Age. They have their own histories and modern experiences. But their behavior can help researchers test possibilities that fossils alone cannot reveal. In 2017, anthropologist David Sampson and his colleagues studied sleep among Hadza hunter-gatherers in northern Tanzania. 33 adults wore small wrist devices that recorded movement and activity. Across 20 nights, the researchers compared when different people appeared to sleep and wake. What they found was remarkable. During the period between the first person falling asleep and the last person waking, everyone appeared to be asleep at the same time for only 18 minutes in total. For about 99.8% of the sampled nighttime periods, at least one person was awake or moving lightly enough to be scored as awake. The median at any moment was 8 people, but they were not following an organized shift schedule. No one needed to announce, "Your watch begins at midnight." The protection emerged naturally because different people slept differently. Some went to sleep earlier, others remained active later. People briefly woke to adjust their position, tend to a child, approach the fire, or respond to something around them. Then early risers began moving before the late sleepers had finished resting. The night was not divided into neat turns, it was covered by overlapping lives. The researchers called this sentinel-like behavior. A sentinel is someone who keeps watch, but sentinel-like is an important distinction. The study measured movement, not whether each awake person was deliberately scanning for danger. It did not prove that prehistoric groups used the same pattern. What it demonstrated was that ordinary differences in sleep timing can create near-continuous opportunities for vigilance without a formally appointed guard, and one factor made those differences especially interesting: age. Younger adults tended to stay awake later, while older adults often became active earlier. This is related to chronotype, your natural tendency to sleep and wake at particular times. You probably know a night owl who becomes energetic when everyone else is fading, and a morning person who seems unfairly cheerful before sunrise. Modern schedules treat these differences as inconveniences. One person struggles through an early class, another can barely remain awake at night, but inside a mixed-age sleeping group, the same differences could become a security system. The late sleepers covered the beginning of darkness. Brief awakenings filled parts of the middle. Older early risers covered the approach of dawn. Nobody had to sacrifice an entire night because the group's biological clocks did not perfectly agree. If you had lived in that camp, which role do you think you would have filled? Late night watcher, restless middle sleeper, or first person awake at dawn? Tell me in the comments. This does not mean ancient humans never used deliberate guards. When danger was unusually high, someone may have intentionally stayed awake. A nearby predator, conflict with another group, severe weather, or a vulnerable campsite could make organized vigilance useful. But direct evidence for prehistoric guard rotations is extremely difficult to obtain. so presenting them as a universal nightly rule would go beyond what the evidence can show. There was also another protector, the group itself. Sleeping alone creates one set of ears. Sleeping beside many people creates many. Even if most are asleep, they do not all enter the same sleep stage at the same moment. Someone may be close to waking when a branch snaps. A child may stir and wake an adult. One person reacting can quickly alert everyone else. This may help explain why human sleep became so social. Many primates sleep in trees, but humans increasingly slept on the ground. Ground sleep offered space to lie more comfortably and may have supported deeper, more efficient sleep. Fire could provide warmth, light, and some protection. Yet the ground also exposed sleepers to new dangers. The safest solution was not simply to become a lighter sleeper, it was to sleep near other people. That produced a trade-off. If you remained highly alert all night, you would lose the restorative benefits of sleep. Your attention, memory, mood, and physical performance would suffer the next day. A completely unconscious group, however, could miss an approaching threat. Overlapping sleep patterns offered a middle path. Individuals could rest while awareness remained distributed across the camp. Even the fire complicates the familiar image. It was useful, but it was not a magical force field. Flames shrink. Fuel burns down. Wind changes direction. Smoke becomes uncomfortable. Someone waking naturally could move closer, add fuel, check a sound, and settle again. These small interruptions may have mattered more than one exhausted guard fighting sleep until sunrise. Other research among the Hadza, the San of southern Africa, and the Tsimane of Bolivia has also challenged the idea that people without electric light simply fall asleep at sunset and remain unconscious for a perfect 8 hours. In one study, sleep commonly began several hours after sunset and ended around the coldest part of the morning. Temperature was strongly connected with sleep timing. That makes sense when you imagine the camp as it actually was. Sunset did not act like an off switch. People could talk, prepare food, repair tools, care for children, or sit around a fire. Social life continued into darkness. Then sleep arrived at different times for different bodies. The most surprising possibility is that imperfect sleep may sometimes have helped the group. A person briefly waking was not necessarily experiencing a failed night. That wakefulness could create a moment in which smoke was noticed, a child was covered, an animal was heard, or fading embers were restored. But be careful with the modern mirror. This does not mean chronic insomnia is secretly beneficial or that you should ignore ongoing sleep problems. Ancient flexibility is not the same as being repeatedly deprived of rest by stress, noise, school schedules, or glowing screens. The connection is subtler. Humans did not evolve as identical sleepers sealed inside separate boxes. Your sleep timing changes with age. It responds to temperature, light, activity, and the people around you. Some variation that feels inconvenient in a world of fixed alarms may once have made a group more resilient. It also changes the way you might picture an ancient camp. At midnight, the scene was probably not perfectly still. Someone shifted beside the fire. Someone whispered. A baby stirred. A tired hunter woke for a moment and listened. Near dawn, an older member of the group rose while others remained asleep. Was each of them officially guarding the camp? Probably not. Were they creating moments when danger could be noticed? Very likely. The answer to the opening question, then, maybe almost nobody and nearly everybody? If this changed how you imagine prehistoric nights, tell me which detail surprised you most. And subscribe for more stories revealing how ordinary human behavior carries traces of ancient life. While everyone slept, humanity may never have been completely asleep.